Well, and here in Belize, we also have bats. I mentioned this earlier, but they are super important agricultural pollinators. Bats are they are basically our birds of the night. And it's really important for us in our agricultural areas to have these pollinators. We need them. We can't, a lot of the fruits that we grow and sell in Belize are bat or bird pollinated fruits.
This episode is brought to you in part by our sponsor, Tidal Influence, a Californian ecological consulting firm who proudly supports environmental education and all of the diverse conservation efforts that Pelecanos works to highlight. Visit their website at titleInfluence.com to learn more about what they do to conserve our coastal resources and how you can get involved. On today's episode of Conservation Conversations, we talk with Vanessa Kilburn of the Toucan Ridge Ecology and Education Society, or T.R.E.E.S. Now, T.R.E.E.S is a small grassroots ecological conservation organization hosting a research and education center in the hills of Belize. The T.R.E.E.S Field Station and Research and Education Center functions as a wildlife ecology research and education center focusing on tropical ecology research and post-secondary education. However, they strongly believe that ecological conservation can only happen with community involvement, so they also provide a wide range of community programs to members of their community and involve locals in all aspects of their research and education initiatives, as well as ecological conservation. Now, we recommend watching this episode as we have amazing footage of their bat research in action. Also, check out their social media pages, linked in the episode description, to see more of what they do. Thank you to Vanessa and her team for their time and excitement in showing us around. Please enjoy our conversation with her.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Kilburn. I am the program manager and co-director of T.R.E.E.S, which stands for Toucan Ridge Ecology and Education Society. We are a not-for-profit organization based in Belize, and we work with cultural and natural heritage conservation.
So what does cultural and natural heritage conservation mean?
Good question. So natural and cultural heritage conservation to me means conserving Belize's natural landscapes, of which there are some really, really beautiful ones that are still really intact, which is rare in Central America. So we're really working hard in Belize to conserve those. And cultural heritage, because we do have a lot of different cultures in Belize, and we believe that conservation is only possible with the input of local communities.
So when you explain everything about natural and cultural conservation and the importance of it, like what programs have you put in place to install or keep that going?
Well, we do a lot of different things. A big one for cultural conservation would be capacity building. There are not a lot of opportunities for people, especially youth, to have extracurricular activities or to learn things outside of school, and even what they learn in school is maybe not the highest education. So just giving experiential, hands-on learning opportunities to the community around us and like the larger community of Belize, I think is one of the really important things that we do. We have some youth groups throughout the country that we work with that we bring here to teach them about sustainable farming. We also take them out to do wildlife ecology workshops to teach them about wildlife and how to work with wildlife. We've been doing that since our inception pretty much, especially with the kids in our community. And we've really noticed a change in the mindset of the people that work with us here as well at T.R.E.E.S, because we've had a lot of staff over the years. Most people in our area think of natural resources for consumption reasons and for subsistence living, which means to take those resources and use them for something that is not necessarily sustainable. And we feel that, at least with the staff that work here, they've seen people coming from abroad, they've seen people coming from within Belize that really care about wildlife and nature for the sake of those things, just the intrinsic value, and that's really changed their mindset. We also do a lot of research. a lot of our research is joint with students. So every year we've run natural resource management internships with the University of Belize here, where we've had students come and spend 7 weeks on site studying a particular topic of their choice. And then, of course, we've always hosted a lot of international students to do the same thing. And so capacity building also for international students as well. We've had a lot of students that come through our programs that have finished their undergrad and are looking for work and are unable to find a job in their field because they don't have experience. And then with this opportunity to do an internship here, they've gone back home and they've gotten really good jobs in their field. So I think there's a lot of things that we do here that are kind of related to capacity building and just promoting a culture of conservation, which I think is really important, especially in this rural area where there's very few opportunities for people.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you said, where the local, for the most part, local people kind of think of natural resources as for consumption first or only.
Yeah.
And my first thought was like, well, I can't blame them, right?
No, of course not.
And for a local to think of their land as, I have this land where I can go and this is mine, I can do what I want with it. That usually means clearing or farming or whatever. But to make that shift to, I have this land, let's make it the best possible while I can still get what I need from it. That's a huge, huge shift.
Yeah, it's a huge shift, and I think that it's probably only possible providing people see an economic benefit to shifting, and I think that that's what's happened with the people that have worked here, because they've seen, oh, there's jobs for me if I do conservation. Like, these people are actually looking to hire me to guide them in the forest to look for wildlife. So I think that's a big part of it, and I don't know that those changes, at least for adults in the community, I don't think those changes would happen without that, because yeah, of course their primary focus is to provide for their families.
Tell me about this place. Tell me about where we are. Tell me about the habitat, the kind of, I'm sure it's a pretty specific biome that we're in. Seems like we're in the Maya Mountains somewhere.
Yeah, we're in the Maya Mountains.
Yeah, as you can see.
The foothills of the Maya Mountains.
These are the foothills.
These are the foothills. Those are the Maya Mountains right behind us. Yeah.
Cool.
So we're in the Stand Creek district of Belize, which is, we're kind of on the borderline with Cayo. Our district, as we were talking about, used to be primarily funded by export of citrus. Now it would be tourism, although tourism in our area doesn't really exist. It's a little further south where the beaches are. So where we're located, we have a very high biodiversity, and probably one of the highest in the country, because we have a lot of different habitat types in this area. And we also have high elevation habitats which support some species that are not found elsewhere in the country. And then in addition to that, we have a lot of animals, various birds, probably bats, definitely insects that migrate at like altitudinal migrations in our area as well. And it's, we're right where we're located at 27.5 miles Hummingbird Highway. We're at about 200 meter elevation, and that peak behind us is 1,100 meters, and it is less than a mile away.
Wow, yeah.
So that's a huge altitudinal shift in a short distance. So we're actually finding species that are not thought to be in this part of Belize at all. One, I think, is because no one's looked for them here before. Until now, until we've been doing surveys here, there have been no biodiversity surveys for any taxa in this area at all.
That's
which
insane.
Seems insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had insect folks from Bohart Museum in California. Yeah, so anyway, we've been doing insect bioblitzes here for 4 or 5 years now, and I think they've gotten, well, don't quote me because I can't remember, but like more than 20 species new to like country records.
Wow.
for Belize, but also at least a handful of new to science species. So there's still like stuff to find up here, which is really exciting.
Anything Kilburnia?
No, not yet. I gotta work on that. I gotta start studying insects, I think, in order to do that.
Yeah.
So I think there is a very specific biome thing going on right here, which is because, well, as a result of the way the mountains are formed, we get a lot of rain, a lot more precipitation than maybe even all the way down in Toledo district, which is the highest precipitation for the country. We don't have a weather station on site, and our closest weather station is 20 miles away, and the weather is just like 1.5 miles down the road where our friends live. It's doing something completely different, oftentimes. So we're in a little rain cloud, and it just lends itself to high biodiversity. In that Birds of Belize book, I read that it said like however many species, but it says an average of 6 are added a year. Yeah,
which is crazy to me that you're still finding
even just like migrants. We're getting new migrants every year, and it's really, really crazy. There's not many. There's very few locations in Central America where you could still be finding new species.
That's what I was thinking too. It's kind of blows my mind that you think of like traditionally ecology coming from Western societies, UK and then the US, and it's not like we're in the middle of like a really hard to get to area of like sub-Saharan Africa or something like that. It was a 4-hour flight for me from LA, and a 2-hour drive, so it's not like it's that hard.
It's very strange how little has been done here.
But also, they speak English.
Yeah.
And everyone has been amazing. Everyone's super nice.
Yeah.
Everyone's very friendly and welcoming to foreigners.
It's a really easy country to travel in.
Yeah.
I always tell people it's a really awesome introduction to traveling in a developing country, because you get the feeling and you see what it's like, which I think everyone should experience at least at some point in their life, but without it being full of hardships and heartbreak. It's really not that hard to travel here, and it's friendly. And
what exact kind of research have you what have you been doing, what are you doing currently, and then kind of what direction are you trying to stick your head in?
So basically just looking at wildlife conservation as it relates to farming practices. I guess that's kind of the larger picture question that we have, and we're using bats, and also we hope to use birds as well, because both of these taxa have representatives that are very, very important pollinators of agricultural crops. So it's all kind of related. So those are the main research things we're looking at currently, but hopefully with time we'll have more. We're looking at getting another PhD student as well that could promote or to work on a corridor project. So we're also trying to coordinate with Panthera, who's hoping to start working in our area in the next year if they get funding, so that we can actually potentially co-manage, have some co-management of these forest reserves and maybe put them into park status, and actually have some sort of enforcement in our area for illegal slash and burn farms and illegal hunting, which happens a lot here, and everything basically. It's kind of a no man's land because there's nobody here overseeing anything. And so part of that project would be putting in a big camera trapping study and looking at movement of wildlife through this section of the corridor, because we are actually right in the center of the original historical Mesoamerican biological corridor. So our property is actually right through that. So we do have a lot of wildlife moving through. And I actually took field camera photos to the Panthera people a few weeks back that I hadn't even had time to look at. And we just quickly processed the photos in her office, in Emma's office. And I think we had 3 or 4 jaguars passing through our property in a 6-month period.
Wow.
So there's a lot of movement through our area, and they are most likely moving between Coxcomb Bays and Jaguar Preserve and the northern protected areas. So Panthera had been working a lot on their northern corridor through this like the central Belize corridor, and now they're hoping to expand that project down to this area.
Nice. So they're most likely males.
I think there were I can't remember if there was 3 or 4, but 2 or 3 of them were males and one of them was a female.
That means that you have a resident nearby.
Yeah, we're certain we have a female resident. In the past, we've seen the same jaguar on the camera many, many times.
It's funny how, like, I don't know, you mentioned all this really cool research, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, and jaguars? Really? It's that everyone does the same thing. Like, it's as cool as everything else is. Like, it's actually, for conservation, it's actually more cool. But whenever it's a jaguar?
Oh, it's crazy. I remember the very first time I saw a picture of a jaguar on one of our field cameras. It was very early on, and I had gone out to look at some breeding toads this evening, and I had gone out on my own because I was here by myself. In the early days, it was just Matt and myself here all the time. So I went down to the river and I spent a bunch of time down there, and I was looking at all these toads, and I walked back up, and the next morning I walked down to check my camera trap, and I saw me walking by, and then less than 20 minutes later a jaguar walking the opposite direction, the exact same spot. I mean, he had to have been there while I was out there, and he most likely knew I was there. So it's crazy. I mean, and that's only like 300 feet down the hill. That's right away, like that's just at the bottom of the hill from the cabins.
You have this research station for bats, and you do all the really interesting work, and we've got all this really cool footage of handling big, small bats. Me trying to bite through my glove, all that. Basically the question is why? Why do we want bats? Why are bats important? Other than just like they're really cool.
Yeah, and I mean it's tricky because a lot of people don't intrinsically like bats. A lot of people intrinsically fear bats. Especially we do have some bats that are pretty detrimental to livestock and people's security. Bats, right? I mean, that pig has been ravaged by vampire bats. Yeah. So yeah, it's not that easy to convince people to like bats or to care about bats. But there are, there's one example of a bat that is not good for people, and that's only one species of, I don't know how many are in Belize, like close to 90. The vast majority of bats that we have here are like incredibly important for humans in a lot of ways because they eat a lot of like huge masses of insects, including biting flies that people don't like. So that's really important. And so we tell people that because that's probably the biggest thing. Like, well, do you like mosquitoes? No, nobody likes mosquitoes. Now, obviously, mosquitoes here are also very big vectors of disease. So that's a really easy selling point for bats, is to tell people that, well, they eat mosquitoes and maybe don't eat nearly as many mosquitoes as we'd like. They eat a lot of other stuff too, but they do keep the insect populations down. Well, and here in Belize, we also have bats. I mentioned this earlier, but they are super important agricultural pollinators. Bats are, like, especially the fruit bats that we have, like the Phylostomid family with the leaf noses, they are basically our birds of the night. I mean, the nectar-feeding bats are the hummingbirds. A lot of the fruit-eating bats are the fruit-eating birds. Like, they play the exact same role. There's a lot of plants, actually, that bloom at night and not during the day, so they're pollinating different plants as well. And it's really important for us in our agricultural areas to have these pollinators. We need them. We can't, a lot of the fruits that we grow and sell in Belize are bat or bird pollinated fruits. So
they just look like demons.
Yeah, that's the problem. And I think, like, historically, everyone always thought that all bats were vampires, right? And then they always think that they fly into your hair and they think they fly into your face. But I mean, bats are like the least likely animal to do those things because they can, like, literally see exactly where your face is with their crazy echolocation. Yeah. Like, they can't unless they want to, which
Yeah.
they don't, they're not going to be able to fly into your face.
Yeah, and that may be. I feel like that's starting to change because at least in North America, you're starting to see labels. They're actually kind of a cool looking label on tequila. It's like bat friendly tequila.
Right.
And
yes.
so I think that's starting to like make that paradigm shift into people who don't care about conservation. They just like tequila or coffee that's bird friendly, or those things are starting to become more commonplace.
Yeah. And on the East Coast, anyway, of North America, where white nose syndrome has hit the bat populations hard, that's been a big wake-up call to people. Like even, I mean, my parents care about conservation because I care about it, but they're not educated in the topic, and they would not think about bats otherwise.
I guess the silver lining of COVID too is people are becoming more aware of zoonotic diseases and the relationship that we, as even in like Western, here obviously you have a relationship with wildlife, but in the middle of Los Angeles, you have a relationship because you get your food from somewhere that is pollinated by some species of animal, most likely. So what gives you hope? What makes you when you get up in the morning, or when you do have your existential issues? What is it that makes you kind of go, yeah, I'm gonna go do that, or I'm gonna work on this, or but I got that coming, or something?
That's a very hard question to answer. I guess I feel that I live in a place of my own creation, which is cool, and most people don't have that. And so I feel really grateful for that and really lucky. And I feel like I live in a country that is, in a lot of ways, maybe 20 or 30 years behind the rest of the world. And I feel like it's not too late to change things here. And it's not too late for things to go in the direction they've gone in places that I don't really want to be in. I have a lot of friends that live here that are doing really great work. And I'm lucky that I live at a place that, attracts a lot of crazy people, but also attracts a lot of really amazing people that are doing really good things. And so as a subset of the population, I see people that believe in conservation. They believe that the world's not so far gone that there isn't still hope. Like most of the people that come here are either practicing conservation biologists or practicing agriculturalists, or they're students in training. And most of the people that come are living their life in such a way that they are actually doing good for the world. And so I get to be surrounded by all those people. And so it's a lot easier to feel hopeful about the state of the world. And I guess that's what keeps me going. Just the fact that I know that there are lots of people out there doing really good things, and I'm one of them.
With the infrastructure that you have in place here, how can our viewers, listeners, help? Is it just like a come down and visit and jump in and help? If they're a student, do they come? If they're a grad student?
I think that everybody can help in a lot of different ways. Anyone that has the financial means to help us out with donations for our different programs, that's a huge help. Those people may or may not actually be able to make it here. We actually just started a membership program, which is called the Toucan Club. So if anybody wants to become a member of the Toucan Club and support us that way, you get a bunch of perks, but you also get to be a part of our annual general meetings and have some say over the programs that we choose to do for the year and how we go about them. So that's a kind of a tangible way for people that can't really travel or can't necessarily help in a hands-on way. But people that want to come and get their hands dirty can always come and help us as volunteers if they want to come and work with us on our farm projects, or if people have a real community mind, community focus work. We've got all these new programs that we're hoping to get started in the near future, which will be very focused on community development. Yeah, so that, and also grad students, researchers, universities that want a more formal partnership. We're really looking for that. We really need partnerships with institutions that want to start long-term research programs with us. And so we're open to any and all of those types of relationships, and we're seeking them out now. Also, any professors that have student groups that they want to run a course for in Belize. It's an amazing place to come do tropical field biology or a regenerative agriculture course or a leadership community development course. And in addition to the services and programs that we offer here at our station, we also do logistical travel planning, and we can set up all aspects of any of the courses. So people can come and see a whole bunch of different places in Belize.
And the food is amazing.
And the food is amazing. So there's lots of reasons to come to Belize, and there's a lot of ways people can help. And we like any form of help that we can get.
How can we find you? What website, social media?
So our website is under www.treesociety.org. We've got Facebook, Instagram. Those are both under, Facebook is our full name, Toucan Ridge Ecology and Education Society. I think it's funny, actually, I really don't use Instagram, so I'm not sure what our handle is. I know that we've got Birds of Toucan Ridge, which is what Matt manages for the banding station. And then I think it's Trees Belize for Instagram, but that I need to check. We've also got Trees Belize Farms on Instagram, and we have also that for Facebook. So there's lots of different ways you can connect with us through our website or through our various social media channels.
Thank you again to Vanessa and everyone at T.R.E.E.S. Check out their website and social media to learn more about them, visit them, and get involved. Host and producer for this episode are Austin Parker, producer is Taylor Parker, and music was provided by A Picture Book Studios. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our page if you haven't already. It really helps us out. Thank you again. We'll talk to you next time.